Hello and welcome to the Villa Park podcast. It's me, Rich, and I'm back with my original Villa Park pod buddy, the other Rich. How you doing, mate?
Feels nice to be home. Feels nice to be home. I need to frequent these podcasts a bit more because there's always like a big announcement when I do arrive back. So you were saying just the other day it was our 3-year anniversary from speaking to Tony Daly, which literally felt like 10 minutes ago. So yeah, it's been a while. We've been chipping away at this. So it's always a pleasure to get an invite to come back.
Yeah, absolutely. And we did put a message in the group the other day. I think I tweeted it out. 400,000 views on YouTube. Obviously, we started just like recording that and sending it out as a podcast, but you know nearly 500,000 views later, a year and a half into it is just crazy, isn't it?
It's bonkers. It's bonkers. I still, not as much as some of you guys are on the podcast, but I still find myself getting looks from people at Villa Park that don't know if they've just seen James Corden or if they recognise me from the Villa Park podcast. So yeah, but yeah, it's credit to you. I know there's a lot of people involved, but you've certainly taken it from what it was, which was a COVID chat about the Villa, to what it is now. So yeah, Gary Lineker, like, be aware, Richard Sutherland's coming after you.
Well, look, we are over 3,400 subscribers. I think we're actually 35 away from 3,500. So make sure you like and subscribe the video, guys. Help us to hit that mark. We are going to do a special Q&A show at 3,500. So, and potentially give away a special prize as well. So help us grow. Like, subscribe, get your comments in. We're obviously talking Ajax game. So your thoughts on tonight's game, match predictions, lineup predictions, etc., etc. So let's get into it, Rich. We talked about kind of, I guess, Tottenham's
Yeah.
game being the biggest of the season. This game tonight, I don't think it gets much bigger either.
Well, if we can quickly forget the Spurs game,
Yeah.
that would be much appreciated. Listen, like when we started this chat, we couldn't dream about weeks like this. Just to, yes, we lost 4-0. We won't go into the details. We were very bad. I know you've done a pod on it already, but just to have the opportunity to be in a situation like we're in now, when we were, playing Rotherham away or something a few years back, we would never thought it was going to happen. And it's interesting because the people on the podcast have different schools of thought. It's almost like half of us think, well, we're here now, we've got to push on. And the other half of us think, well, we're here. And if we were to fall away, then it's kind of expected because we should never have been here in the first place. Look, we got to take opportunities whilst we've got them. And, whether we feel that we've got a squad to go and win a European Cup and finish top four, or we don't, that's not a headache. That's Emery's job to get the best out of the players that he's got. And I think, yeah, like, I still remember my most vivid memory as a Villa fan from when I was a kid was when we were playing European nights. I know you were there when Atletico Madrid, the Collymore goal. I was there with the Inter Milan game. It's just like it sticks with you. That, especially evening games as well. Just
Mm.
that buzz, that anticipation, and I'm expecting Villa Park to absolutely go off tonight. And look, we'll get into what we think is going to happen in the game, but just to be in the same breath as a team like Ajax is an honour, really.
Yeah, yeah, and obviously they're not quite the Ajax that they were, but they carry that weight. But you mentioned the kind of the magic of like a European night, and yes, like I say, when we did our top three games, and we always tweet Stan Collymore with that goal, and he
Yeah.
replies, and it's probably his favourite moment as a Villa player and a Villa supporter. But yeah, to be in the balance as well at 0-0 against Ajax, it really does set the stage for a special night.
Oh, mate, it does. It does. Look, with all due respect to the teams that we have played, those names just don't carry the weight that an Ajax does. You're at the business end of the competition now, and it's been a long old journey to get to this point. I think the result last
Hibs,
week.
Hibs, we started off at Hibs.
It's funny. I was watching the Villa's best goals in Europe this season, and most of it was just the goals against Hibs. But yeah, I was there on that night against Hibs. There wasn't the same kind of needle in that game that there will be tonight. Like very quickly, we got the goal we needed and we were out of sight. I'm talking about the Villa Park game, but you're right. They're not the Ajax of old, but they're still fifth in the league. They're not
European pedigree though as well, isn't it? They've got that DNA, that European DNA.
And it's interesting because that pedigree point is something that's been discussed with me this week about kind of Villa bottling it on Sunday. That, you know, that there's still that, I don't know, there's still that doubt that runs through us a little bit where it's a bit of imposter syndrome almost. And you see little things like John McGinn, rash challenge, getting sent off. I still think it's a yellow card, but it's that, dare I say, immaturity in those moments that can still be a curse for us. But you don't get through that without doing it, experiencing it, or bringing the players that can. And if you look at our team now, we've got some super professionals, internationals that have played in the biggest games in the world, and as well. So you just like to think that they're the players that are going to stand up and be counted. And also, these are the games that people want to play for Villa in. They, you know, we're building a project. We want to be in these moments. It's all to play for, and you know, they'll travel well, I'm sure. Ajax, they'll put on a good show. They were pretty physical in the last game.
They were.
There wasn't that free flowing football that you'd probably associate with them, and I think there'll be more of that certainly in the away leg for them. So yeah, it'll be a challenge.
It will, mate. It will. So, let's talk a little bit on last week and how we think he might approach it this week. Because, like you said, it was a physical game. There wasn't much brilliant football being played by both sides. I guess Emery will come out of it slightly happier of the two managers, being 0-0. But how do you think he approaches this game? Because a goal for Ajax puts the real pressure on Villa. They can sit back. Is it going to be another cagey affair, or is he going to say, right, go at them from the start and let's really put it on them?
It's tricky, isn't it? It's tricky because there were times in the first half against Spurs actually where we really got into our flow, and I think we all agreed it was a strange change to make going into the second half, and God knows what was said in the team talk at half time. But I feel when I see Villa go behind, I think Emery's got some real confidence in his players that they can handle that situation. You see him, he's always trying to, when things are going well, he's trying to calm us down. When things are going poorly, he's trying to calm us down. I don't think anything in the first 15, 20 minutes will affect him too much one way or the other. I think if they score, and it wouldn't surprise me if their game plan is to, silence the fans, win the first 10 minutes, first 15 minutes. I think he's more confident in our strength of character than the fans are, and perhaps maybe than the players are. But it will, it's going to be an interesting evening. And you can see as well, like, rightly or wrongly, the Villa fans have come to expect good quality football at Villa Park, and we've been given it for the majority of this season. And I'm not saying this about Villa fans, but it's certainly a question. I was watching Liverpool Man City game, and someone commented saying, Liverpool, the crowd are the 12th man when Liverpool are winning, it seems, and when they're behind, the kind of crowd goes missing a little bit. I think Villa, like every football club, will have pockets of fickleness. Like, if you watch all the podcasts that we've done over the years, there'll be like there'll be lots of get him out, and the next minute he scores, and it's like he's a hero again. I just think we've got to stick with the team for as long as possible. We go 2-0 down, we're still in it. This is like do or die
it's
football.
European knockout football, isn't it? And one thing to be said about our European campaign, we had a great win at Alkmaar, but every other game has been nip and tuck. Every other game has been cagey. Has been single goal victories, draw away at Zrinski. So, there's been, and draw away at Ajax. There's been nothing that's been like, comfortable 2-0 win, or it's 2-1 and then Villa, get the goal to make it 3-1 and then it's game over. It's always been, like, you know, we've had to come back from behind a couple of times. We've been pegged back at 0-0, and then we've scored in the last minute. Like there's all, you know, the European feel of a game is really different. And you look at how Arsenal had to cope the other night, you know, winning on penalties against Porto after being 1-0 down. You think, oh, yeah, Arsenal comfortably win. You know, the tension, the stakes on the game. You know, Inter Milan last night against Atletico Madrid, you know, goes to penalties. Anything can happen in a European game.
Mate, it absolutely can. It absolutely can. And it's where you need those composed and calm heads, because 10 minutes of hot-headedness, 10 minutes of like lack of composure can just lose the tie, because it's a different game in that Ajax scored 2 goals. Their formation changes totally. It's not like a round 12 of a big fight where you just everyone's throwing big haymakers. They know that they, being Ajax, if they're in this position, they know what they've got to lose if they do score 1-2. So it's going to be a tricky challenge for Emery, but it's one that he's come to Villa to take on. And it's interesting you make those points about how cagey the games have been, because we've got to be respectful to the actual quality in the competition. Some of those names, when Villa got, you know, drawn up against them in the group, we wouldn't have known anything about them, let alone that they were actually a football club until they were announced. And you can do all the research that you want, but there comes a point where some players will step up and some players won't. And there are European teams that, like Aston Villa tonight, won't have been in this position before. So you don't know how players are going to react. I mean, you said that the game last night, Arsenal-Porto, like it was a really,
Tuesday.
Sorry, it was a really good game. And
yeah, it was.
They were both going at it. But you'd think Arsenal, off the back of some of their huge victories, would have just crushed them. But and I think that there's probably a lack of, probably supported by the media, etc. There's a lack of respect almost to other league standards. You know, it's the Premier League, it's the numero uno. Like, no one gets close to it. If we're playing a German team, or if we're playing a Spanish team, most Villa fans would probably be more concerned than they are now. Yes, Ajax, huge name. They don't have the pedigree that they once had, but when Ten Hag was there, they had a fantastic amount of youngsters come through. They've got a brilliant academy still. They've always had that, right? So when you look at some of their team, and I know there's a few, we'll go into, there's a couple of names missing tonight. They've still got.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? Like we thought, oh, there's not too many household names. We'll talk on a couple of them in a second, but you just hit the nail on the head. You know, their academy, their way that they bring their players through. Yes, they might not be seeing the success of winning leagues, winning titles. Doesn't mean they're not good technical footballers. Doesn't mean they can't, you know, handle themselves on a football field. And some of those players in midfield, you know, they had a specific job. They carried it out to the fullest. Some of their defenders, you know, did really well against Ollie Watkins. You know, I think they probably gave a little bit of a surprise to some of the Villa players, because we know that Ajax will have technically gifted footballers because of the academy, because of the way that they coach players. But the way that they stood up kind of physically and mentally was really something. So that's the key.
It absolutely is key. And sorry, I glanced at my other screen. It looks like Konsa's going to make the squad. It's about
brilliant.
about to be announced. So, but what they have got is they've got that habit of style. Do you know what I mean? So because they come through, and yes, managers come and go, and there's probably little tweaks, but unlike a lot of clubs, there's a small handful where you know they're going to play a certain way, and Ajax are certainly like that. So they'll bring players in through the academy that you can slot in. So yeah, Villa maybe subconsciously, I don't think they would have consciously done it, but subconsciously not respected the level that they were going to bring, or they may not have acknowledged the physical side of the game that they were going to bring. But it's a scrap. It's absolutely a scrap. And away from home for them is even more of a scrap than at home. So, you know, I expect there to be a few juicy challenges early doors.
Yeah, and one player, or we'll focus on a couple of players actually. Brobby up front, he seemed like a strong player. He scored a key goal for them to get a draw back for them on Sunday or Saturday in their game on the weekend. He was obviously a handful. I didn't think he had a huge amount to his game, famous last words, other than kind of being,
Yeah.
a real
Stop
brute.
it now.
Yeah. But I didn't see anything that there would be like, oh, he's going to add this extra to his game on tonight that Villa didn't see last week. Is what I mean. Yes, that might get through a Carlos, or might get through a Torres if he's playing, or Langley if he's playing, that through brute strength. But it's not anything that he didn't have any hidden layers of skill that I thought he didn't bring out last week, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, no, I know, and the way I saw them
Good
setting
player
up
though
was,
he is.
yeah, there were two players either side, and if he is that physical handful, all he's got to do sometimes is win a flick on. All he's got to do is, just even if the ball, just a little layoff, and there'll be midfielders running through. And I think it was Taylor one side and Hilson. I think there's sometimes players aren't there to take on a centre half and score a goal. They're there to create a diversion, almost a physical headache. So yeah, you're right. I didn't see anything that would cause any of our centre halves any sleepless nights. But again, it's the atmosphere, it's the event, it's the do or die, it's the business end of it that all just adds and adds and adds and adds. And like you saw with a John McGinn, or like you saw with Konzel, granted the second yellow was very, very harsh. Sometimes that gets to the referees as well. The occasion, that's the one I'm looking for.
Did last week.
It's the occasion. It all builds the occasion. It's a full Villa Park. It's a mild day down here in Birmingham. It'll be under the lights. There'll be, how they do it at Villa Park now. There'll be flamethrowers. There'll be all sorts. We're edging a little bit towards the American sports, season by season. And I'm all right with it. I'm all right with it.
Yeah. Well, it adds to the absolutely adds to the occasion.
Yeah, and you just got to think that, as I said earlier, there's enough players that have been in huge occasions that will step up. And we can analyze and dissect how they've performed. What loss, win, draw over the last 3 games for them. They drew Sunday. I don't know how good Fortuna Sittard are, but they drew 2-2 with them. We lost 4-0. In one argument, we're in a better position because we've got to come back from something. We've got to prove that 4-0 was a blip, or it's actually we should have lost 6. We didn't play. You can spin it however you want, but usually when that whistle goes, all bets are off. And you look at that Villa team, and we'll look at your selection in a second. You just gotta appreciate that we're in the fight. Do you know what I mean? And 3-4 years ago, we would have given our left leg to be in this situation, and to have the great Ajax, granted, pedigree's not the same as it was a few years back, but to have them visit Villa Park, it's a pleasure. It's an honor, right? Yeah. So we clearly want to win. We clearly want to progress. It's part of the bigger plan, and we can't tomorrow, if we lose, say, oh, what an honor it was to have Ajax. But we just got to hope that the players have been prepped in the right way. They've been conditioned in the right way. That, I'm just picturing like Bodymoor Heath being full of flamethrowers, and like them playing like at 8 o'clock at night to get used to. But it all makes a difference. But I think one thing we'll certainly have, which I've been impressed with this season, is the strength of our first 11. The danger for me is then what comes off the bench to change that.
Yeah. Well, let's have a look at the lineup that I've gone for. So yeah, I've gone for Martinez in goal. Cash, Carlos, if he's kind of fit. I know he came on late in the game against Spurs, but I think for the physical threat of Brobby, I think he's probably a better option. Obviously, Konza's out suspended. Pau Torres, if he's fully fit, obviously slightly unlucky for Langley, but I think we've got to go with strongest centre-back partnership we can. Moreno at left back, although Dini's done well, but I think pace on the left-hand side, we'll stick with Moreno. Eric Bonham and Luiz in that pivot in midfield. It's time for him to step up. Basically, I think he's been a bit slow on the ball. I think he's been a bit timid in his play, but he needs to step up. And Emery's been talking a lot about him and how he needs to step up. McGinn, Tielemans, McGinn needs to show, and I think I'm expecting a big game from him. I think Jordan Henderson actually had a big influence in the game at Ajax, and I think we need to stop his influence in the game. Like we know what an experienced England international Champions League winner, all that kind of stuff brings to a team. And you talk about the key moments in games. We need to stop him from having an influence.
Yeah, I
and
agree.
then Bailey and Watkins. I think you could toss up between Bailey and Diaby, but I think if he wants to get off to a fast start, I'd probably go with Bailey.
Yeah, he looks a little leggy against
He did.
Spurs, a bit tired. I think the only, and I'd agree with that team. Some players are picking themselves because of suspensions and injuries. You're right, Eric Bonham. Like you got to step up. You just got to step. This is, you want to be part of a top 6 squad. You got to play like a top 6 squad player can. I think Henderson, talking of leggy, his legs probably went a couple of seasons ago. If we can stretch that midfield a little bit, I think he might get found out. Which the only thing that I might suggest might be different is I wouldn't be surprised if we saw Zaniolo. And why I think that is because of his physicality.
Maybe
he can hold
he came
the ball
on and did
up.
all right
Yeah,
in the away leg.
he's still a bit of a prima donna, but
he
doesn't.
You don't know what you're getting with him.
No, I know. And my only argument for perhaps putting him in, he probably wouldn't be instead of a Bailey. But if we played a front 3, I just think that physicality, that he can hold the ball up, he can take a player on. Granted, not at the same level that you get from a Bailey, but I think he'll start Bailey. If he was choose between Bailey and Diaby, I'm looking at who might be on our bench. Yeah,
you'd have Rogers, Diaby. Oh, based off my team, you'd have Rogers, Diaby, Zaniolo, Duran, Digne, and then Longley, Chambers, etc., etc.
Yeah, you got a fair bit of offensive talent there to be able to bring in. Yeah, I would be, as I said, I can't really put much of an argument together as to why I wouldn't agree with that team, other than I think that Zaniolo might. You wouldn't be surprised if it was McGinn, Lewis, Holding with a Zaniolo.
Maybe.
I just, for all the reasons that we've mentioned about Eric Bonham, it's a big game. And yes, you got to step up, but yes, Emery also needs to kind of protect him a little bit. So yeah, maybe Diaby and I don't know. We've got options. The defense, I think, picks itself. But after that, I would be not surprised in the slightest if your formation was what we went for. But I think there could be some tweaks. But it's interesting because when you look at the game, and I know some of these changes were forced upon us, but there was a fair few substitutions. We used our bench quite a bit to try and make something happen. And again, I don't want to use this word all the time, but the occasion, and what we have got is a manager that's used to these occasions, a manager that just, I said earlier, he's just calm. He knows games now last about 100 minutes. So he knows there's always going to be an opportunity. And with some of the players that we've got, we saw when you and I watched the Luton game together, we saw you make changes, just 1 yard of space crossing goal. Sometimes it can be that simple, but from what Bournemouth did to Luton last night, it looked like we made hard work of getting past Luton. We should have given a more of a head start. Yeah, I think whilst I love the idea of what we're about to do this evening, I'd be gutted if we lost.
Well, let's not think about that. Just to finish up then, and get your comments in, your thoughts on predictions for tonight. I'm going to trouble you for your prediction in a second, Rich. Hit the like button as well, people. Hit the subscribe button. Help us hit that 3,500. If we could do it today, that would be amazing. 35 needed on last check. So yeah, like, subscribe, and comment your thoughts. Do you agree with my starting lineup? And what do you think the score is going to be? And will Villa be victorious? So that's the question for you, Rich. Will Villa be victorious, and by what score, and who scores?
It's the question, isn't it? Will they? I can never bet against the Villa. I can't go
especially
to
not
game.
tonight.
Well, yeah, I can't go to the game thinking, we're going to lose 2-1 and I'll be all right with that. It's going to be 2-1. They will score 2-1 to Aston Villa. It'll be Watkins. And let's go with the belief that Eric Bonham is going to have the game of his life and he's going to score the other one.
I like it. I like it. I am going to go with 3-1 Villa. And I'm going to go with Watkins, McGinn. I think McGinn will score. And I'll say Luiz will score a penalty.
Nice. Yeah, I can see. I can see, you mentioned it earlier, I can see McGinn knowing he's got a point to prove. He will be gutted. And yes, speak to Spurs fans and he should be done for manslaughter. Speak to Villa fans and it was a yellow card at best. And you see McGinn make those challenges and break the game up. And I do think if the Spurs player had stayed on his feet after he hopped up, the ref gives him a yellow and everything, players just get on with it. But he'll have a point to prove. He'll definitely feel like he let us down. And if he can be even more supercharged than he normally is, I think we're going to see he's going to cover every blade of grass. And if we do lose, it certainly won't be down to a lack of McGinn trying. It might be down to some other players dropping their heads and not being up for the fight. But yeah, well, it's good that we both think it's going to be a Villa victory.
Yeah, it's got to be. It's got to be.
And this
like you said,
will continue.
Exactly. We've got the best manager in the business to get us there. So
at this level, these kind of lower level European competitions, like, he's second to none. So he'll know what he's doing. He'll know what he's putting out. He will have analysed every pass, every shot, every tackle that Ajax have done over the last 3 years almost. And we've got class players across the whole pitch. You talk about Pau Torres and Carlos as centre halves. They're brilliant. They're physical. Carlos is fast. Torres, his distribution is up there with the best centre halves in the Premier League, and it's interesting when you look at the stats of how many of our attacks have come and started from him. Henderson can have the game of his life, but if Torres is picking his passes out, the game's going to go past him. So I'm excited. I'm keen to get there to soak up the atmosphere. As I was saying to you, Rich, it's been a while since I've been in the Upper Hall. And I'm in the Upper Hall tonight, so I want the best of the atmosphere that Villa can bring. And yeah, my old man probably won't know what's hit him. I don't think he's been in the Upper Hall for maybe 20, 30 years. So yeah, it'll be good. It'll be fun. And hopefully we can come away celebrating a victory.
Yeah, well, hopefully your dad's standing on the chair.
shouting,
we're by far the greatest team the world's ever seen by the 95th minute. So yeah,
mate,
amazing stuff. Yeah, Rich, fantastic. Like you are there tonight, and everyone else who's there tonight. Make sure you're loud and make it an intimidating atmosphere for Ajax, and a real good atmosphere for the players. And hopefully it's another famous Aston Villa European night. Thank you very much, mate. Thank you for everyone watching. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, comment down below, and as always, remember, we'll follow the Villa. Thanks, everyone.